here again with the fifth video in our series. Today we're going to talk about accompanying mode 3. I'm trying something different here with a little headset microphone to see if that improves the clarity of the narration. I'm going to probably be a little bit less detailed in explaining all the little nuances of what I'm doing, since so many of them will be the same as what I've done in other modes and in other videos. So I'll just speak specifically to mode 3 today and let you kind of start to pick up on the little nuances, and feel free to ask questions if you have any. Mode 3 can be particularly challenging, and I know that some of the viewers have already pointed out that mode 3 is one that they have a little bit of difficulty with, and I think the reason for that is I would say like modes 4 and 7, it's just really, really modal. You know, a lot of the other modes, you could really kind of work in your head into a modern key sound. You could at least convince yourself, for better or worse, that you're in a key. Mode 3, and frequently mode 4 and mode 7 less so, but definitely 3 and 4, they're just extremely modal, and that makes them a little bit difficult sometimes to accompany because your modern musical mind wants to follow progressions and ideas of modern music. But this is not that. This is very modal. So let's have a look. I've got two things to look at here. One is a hymn from Vespers, and the other is an antiphon from Sunday Vespers. So we'll take a look at both of those and see what we can come up with. So in mode 3, the tonic is mi, the range is mi to mi, and the dominant is actually do. So we'll see that kind of plays into our accompaniment here a little bit. So for this one, because of the range of notes that you would have to sing and what's comfortable for singing, I've chosen to do it in pitch here. So do is C, and we'll begin on a do chord. All right, so we begin, as I said, on the do chord, and our first pitch is mi. And then we go to la minor, fa major, sol major. And there's a very common little, a common pattern. You could almost call it a cadence because it does seem to be resolving into that sol major. And now we're on the mi minor, so in this structure that's E minor. Now that's la minor, first inversion, so A minor over C. Do major, C major, to Re minor, D minor. La minor, A minor. Fa major, Sol major. Where have we seen that before? La minor first inversion, Re minor, Mi minor. Okay? So a couple of patterns that stuck out to me there. First of all is a definitive use of La minor. We saw quite a bit of that in there. But a couple of patterns, Fa major, Sol major. We saw that twice there in a very short hymn verse. And you do see that quite a bit in mode 3. And then, of course, the Re minor to Mi minor cadence, which, you know, I mentioned in just about all the other videos, the predominance of 7-1 cadences. And like I said, you really can't think of mode 3 in modern key terms, but if you did, given that Mi is the tonic, we would be speaking in Mi minor. So again, if it's Re minor, Mi minor, there's that 7-1 cadence again. So we just see that cropping up quite a lot in all of these different modes, as we'll continue to see through the modes. So we have that Fa major, Sol major, we have that Re minor, Mi minor cadence, and quite a bit of the use of La minor. So that's the hymn. Let me just play through that one more time.
Venut super lacrimum et seva nostrorum cos agiavit in noces melentis alta et ei.
Now, when you're accompanying hymns like this, chant hymns, it's always a good idea to consider, once you're comfortable with accompanying straight from the square notes without writing in your chords, it's a good idea to start thinking about maybe changing up your accompaniment a little bit from one verse to the next, so that it's not just that same thing repeated over and over again, especially if you're working with a choir that will alternate between, let's say, men and women singing, or like with a seminary schola or a choir where you may have the epistle side singing one verse and the gospel side singing another verse. So things like that. It's nice to add that contrast between the different sections of the choir that are singing. So you may want to change your accompaniment for another verse. I'm just going to make something up here just to give an example. For the second verse, we might do Vibrantis astra militis peccata nostra dirigunt ferumque dire cuspidis mortale crimen aculit. So that was just whatever was coming to my head at the moment, just as an idea of how you can vary your accompaniment from one verse to the next. Then for your third verse, go back to the original one. Just adding that contrast is a good idea when we're working with a group where there's any sort of alternatum going on. Okay, let's move on to the Vespers hymn for Sunday, rather the Vespers antiphon for Sunday, Magna Opera Domini.
Magna opera Domini exquisita in omnes voluntates eius.
Now that rides pretty low, and you might think, well, gee, why don't we bring that up a little higher? Well, the reason is, as I mentioned in a previous video, this is going to lead into a psalm tone. And the antiphons typically have to serve the psalm tone, if you follow me there. So you want to set it for your psalm tone to be sung in a comfortable range, which means that sometimes your antiphon is going to go a little higher or a little lower than you may want it to go. But that's because you've got to sing, for example, in this case, 12 verses of the psalm. And if I were to bring it up too high, then we'd be singing, Confitebol tibi Domino in toto corde meo. And when you're talking about a group that's not a bunch of tenors, that can be very difficult. That's why I mentioned before that A is your typical reciting tone. So I've set A as our reciting tone for this, which is why the antiphon rides a little bit lower. So Do is A. So we start on that Do chord again. As you notice, that was the same thing with the hymn before, starting on the Do chord. Magna. That's just the first inversion of the Do chord. Opera Domini. And guess what we had there? Fa major, Sol major. Exquisita. And there we're on that La minor, so F sharp minor here. Ita in omnes, Fa major. Voluntates eius. And there again, we had that Re minor to Mi minor cadence at the end. So I think, once again, we see two very distinct patterns here. I'm going to call it four distinct patterns. We see a heavy use of a Do chord and of the La chord, okay? And then we have that Fa major to Sol major movement, and then the Re minor to Mi minor cadence. All right? So one more time through that, and we'll lead it into the psalm verse then.
Magna opera Domini, exquisita in omnes voluntates eius. Confitebol tibi Domine in toto corde meo, in concilio iustorum et congregatione, magna opera Domini, exquisita in omnes voluntates eius.
Okay, so what's happening there? We're starting again on a Do major chord. And I'm just walking that down to the La minor, F sharp minor. And then Fa major. So what am I doing there? I'm just taking my Fa major chord, moving to the 6th, which is going to actually make it a Re minor first inversion to lead into the Sol major chord. But again, that's a Fa major, Sol major movement, even though by adding the 6th, I'm kind of making it that first inversion of the Re minor. You could also think of it as a Fa major 6. Especially if you keep that 5th in there with it like I just did there. Okay? We'll go through a few more verses and then lead back into the antiphon.
Confessio et magnificentia opus eius, et justitia eius manet in saeculum saeculi, memoriam fecit mirabilium suorum.
Okay, and then we had a flex, and on the flex you use the La minor chord.
Memoriam fecit mirabilium suorum, misericors et miserator Dominus, escamderit mentibus se, memorerit in saeculum testamenti sui, virtutem operum suorum annunciavit populo suo, ut det illis hereditatem gentium, opera manum eius veritas et judicium,
Etc. through you, Gloria Patri and Sicut. Back to the verse, to the antiphon.
Magna opera Domini, exquisita in omnes voluntates eius.
And that's Mode 3 in a nutshell. Mode 4 will be on the way next, so subscribe and stay tuned for more videos. God bless you.